Welcome
Stop.
to Caleb Can't Read.
Who are you?
I'm Caleb Terrence.
Well, I'm Jordan Rabel.
Mm-hmm. What do you got for us today, Jordan?
This is the one you want to enter in on?
I don't know. Why not?
Well, you know what I have for you today?
Mm.
I got a little present.
What you got?
It's heavy.
Oh, damn. Okay. Well, you didn't wrap it. Oh. The hard do?
The hard do. They fully released it.
Oh, my God.
Do you want to Baja Blast it with me?
Are we doing like a... Wait, there's Baja Blast?
Yeah, that's why I got it.
Oh! Oh, shit! Why didn't you tell me before I opened the Modelo?
You're going to drink that too.
I mean, yeah, but I want it to be a crisp, fresh way to forget this happened.
You can... Well, that's what the second Modelo is for.
Dude, these cannot be up here and not in the refrigerator.
Hand me a blast.
I know,
But get through this orange shit.
Dude,
we don't need this.
Okay, so we've got...
Do. Hell yeah. No, that's regular. What is
got
this?
Livewire.
Oh, 0 sugar, huh? Cool.
Regular Mountain Dew.
Regular.
Just to follow up from before.
This got to sound terrible to anyone listening. It's bam, bam. What's that?
In our
Strawberry
sponsored by Mountain Dew roleplay that we're doing, apparently. Okay, we are at Baja Blast.
Yes. All right,
dude. I would have got fucking shitty tacos. I would have made it a whole thing. You could have talked with me about this.
We could still get Doritos. Look, shit. That's why you don't trim your nails.
These cans are hard, man.
Okay. They got the child lock on them for some reason.
Okay, Caleb Can't Read Baja Blast review coming in.
It's still the same issue as the last one. It almost tastes like it's flat.
Yeah.
That's got a little bit of a nickel taste behind it.
I was watching Reels and saw somebody throwing in some buzz balls into an actual thing of Baja Blast.
No, don't. Which buzz balls, actually? I'm going to do this later.
Probably the Pina Colada ones.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that looked pretty tasty. This is, I'm going to say better. This is definitely an improvement upon the traditional.
You've got a third koozie behind you.
Oh,
put your open one in there.
Okay.
And you could just sit in front of all these dudes like they're judging.
No, I think a big problem for me with these is the sugar-free.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. Would that really... It's already super sweet.
Because they're trying to do like a White Claw thing, like I said before.
Yeah, which, by the way, found out the other day, Arizona's making hard tea. Simply Lemonade is doing hard lemonade.
It might be good if they have actual sugar. That's the thing that's wild to me, though, is like, if I reach for a hard Mountain Dew, I am not the target audience that's like, wait a minute.
About my health.
I don't want there to be... Hey, man, I don't want diabetes. Like, hold up. No, man. This should be disgusting. This should be on tier with MD 2020.
It really should.
As a high alcohol content trash beverage.
Well, we're going to soldier on, I guess. What else can you do? Well, here's my segue.
That's not a segue. That's not how it works.
I'm leading up to that was a segue into my segue.
I'm always primed and ready
to hate
on you in this part because you never ever.
I have been consistently for like the last year.
Well, no, like I've said, you write out the whole thing and do all the research, and then you're like, and yeah, I'll make something up.
Tell me, and I'm making it up now, but it's still relevant, which makes it a segue.
Okay.
Would it be gay if I said I wanted to dock in your more?
Yes.
All right. Let's get started, shall we?
Okay. I'm just saying, all this effort, all this writing, and then you were like, oh, should I like try to write something else? No, I'll just buy a 12 rack of hard Mountain Dew and then ask
hard as stone, brother,
about fucking you. That was your...
Yeah.
That was your thought process there.
Yeah. That's the kind of research and energy we bring to Caleb Can't Read.
You're the worst host ever, Jordan.
Edward Dickinson was born January 1st, 1803 in Amherst, Massachusetts. His father Samuel was one of the founders of Amherst College in 1821.
Whoa.
No, don't look at the watermelon one. I'm curious too. We'll get there.
Oh, yeah, heads up. There was a mix-up. We tried to switch pharmacies, but then one pharmacy closed. So we're raw dogging the ADD today.
Oh, good.
Yeah. There's a lot of colorful objects on this table, man.
Oh, fuck. Let me tell you. This will go as long as you make it.
Fucking buckle up, listeners.
Edward studied law at Yale and Northampton before passing the bar exam in 1826 at the age of 23. That same year, he traveled to the town of Monson on assignment.
Wait, but who were his parents? Who were his parents, Jordan?
Well,
and their parents.
His dad was named Samuel. Hey, we're actually going into the parents right now. Hang on.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to worry you. We are talking about lineage
here. That's my favorite fucking part, Jordan, every time.
So he traveled to the town of Monson on assignment where he met a girl 1 year older than him by the name of Emily Norcross. They courted for about half a year.
What is courting? Is that like docking?
Well, I can't say that I couldn't find anything that say that they actually dated face to face. They exchanged letters to each other for about half a year.
Did she also say they did, or did he just say they did? Because it sounds like one of those.
Here's the thing. Edward sent Emily 69 love letters. She only sent about 24. And while his letters were filled with thoughts about her and his feelings, she didn't talk about any of that shit. In fact, she seemed to kind of bully him. Like, it seems like she kind of got off on being mean to him, and he was sort of into it. But later that year, in October of 1826, when Edward proposed via letter, Emily reluctantly agreed. She literally said, quote, "You may rightly conclude that my feelings are in unison with yours." That's the way I want to hear it.
I love you. Same.
LOL. What does that mean?
Fuck is that?
2 years later, on May 6, 1828, the two married, and together they had 3 children. The first was a boy named William, but they always called him by his middle name, Austin. Born on April 16, 1829. A year later, the family moved to a large house called the Dickinson homestead, built by Edward's father Samuel in 1813. But the thing is, while the Dickinsons were a prominent New England family that could even trace their lineage back 200 years into the New World, the family was far from financially secure. Soon after Samuel Dickinson built the homestead, he lost it within 12 years because of 2 mortgages he couldn't pay. But now, in 1830, Edward was buying the west wing of the house for $1,500. Not the whole thing, just one half.
You can do that?
You
could buy it in bits?
You know what, if it's big enough.
Could the other part be on layaway?
They probably tried. But he bought that for $1,500, about $50,000 today. However, money troubles would soon follow Edward as well, and by 1833, just 3 years after moving into the house, he had to sell off his section too. This time the entire property was bought by an army general named David Mack, who graciously allowed the family to stay there, but he made them live in the East Wing instead. So they had to pick up all their shit and move it to the other side.
I just want to watch you move.
Oh, did I say East Wing? My bad. I meant it was okay if you stayed in the West. Oh, my West. I thought you meant your... Yeah, East is fine.
Every time I just look over you guys being settled, and it just really starts to bug me.
Oh, that's like my last landlord.
What's that? You have a fucking problem? You want me to start charging you rent? I didn't think so. Why don't you get moving on that fucking couch, huh?
Well, by this point, the Dickinson couple had 2 more kids, Lavinia, born on February 28th of 1833, and their middle child, born 3 years earlier on December 10th, 1830, and the subject of today's episode, Emily Elizabeth Dickinson.
I feel like I've heard this.
You probably have.
Yeah.
Your parents were gay. You probably have.
We're embarrassed once again on Caleb Kent.
Not that embarrassing, but I mean, Now, Emily Dickinson's early life was largely spent at home with a mother who was just as kind to her kids as she was to her husband. You see, although Edward was a trained lawyer, it clearly wasn't earning him enough to hustle, so he became the Amherst College's school treasurer in 1835, a position he would keep until the year before his death. By 1838, he was serving in the Massachusetts House of Representatives, and 4 years later, he served in the Senate. Even later in the 1850s, he'd become a goddamn congressman. The thing is, with all of this administrative work he was doing, it meant, as small of a state as Massachusetts is, Edward was always away on business, leaving their kids with just their shitty mom. But although the Dickinsons could never live up to their own societal standards, Ed made sure that his children had a classical, well-to-do Victorian education, so they could at least pretend to be rich on the outside. But he could
spoonful of lead every morning.
Eat that paint. But he could only be strict with his children from afar, telling them to, quote, keep school and learn, so as to tell me when I come home how many new things you have learned.
My fucking wife doesn't respond to my letters. My kids don't respond to my letters.
But it seems that no matter how much Edward tried to play the strict father, he was a loving dad. But as I mentioned before, it was Emily's mom, also named Emily, so I'm just going to call her Emily's mom from now on to lessen the confusion. She seemed like kind of a bitch. Not in a mommy dearest kind of way. Like, she wasn't a tyrant, but she seemed like more of a, well, look who thinks they're hot shit. You know?
Really?
That kind of mom.
She just sounds cold.
Yeah. Well, you've had like 5 moms. One
That's
of them had
very
to be like
aggressive.
that, right?
Cold?
You know, like just kind of, you really think so? You think that's,
No.
if that's, what, you had just a loving family?
I think that's a straight lady thing.
Oh. Yeah, my mom was like that. I guess that
there
makes
you
sense.
go. Yeah. You know why? She was married to a man.
You ever tried being married to a girl before? It's wonderful.
Exactly.
Emily Dickinson once wrote in a letter to a friend, quote, "She was an awful mother, but I liked her better than none." By 1840, when Emily was just 9 years old, she and her younger sister Lavinia attended Amherst College, which had just started accepting female students 2 years prior. During this, the family would move out of the Dickinson homestead altogether and into a large house that surely they couldn't afford, but one that overlooked the local cemetery. In the 7 years Emily Dickinson spent at Amherst, she did very well academically, though she often had to miss school due to long bouts of illness. Now, partly, I think her sickness could be attributed to her living in the 1840s. Like, go figure, everyone's sick. But a part of me thinks her absence from school could be from her frail mental state as well. You see, Emily had a very foreboding fear of death, which isn't great when you're living outside the fucking graveyard.
We going Lovecraft with this?
Somebody with a more loving family than that, yeah, this is how he could have been, brought up.
Let's not say that, if they had a more loving family, they would have been like Lovecraft. That's not what you're inferring, is it?
No. No.
Okay.
I'm saying this is the opposite direction. She had a family that cared about her.
Mm-hmm. I see.
When Emily's cousin died of typhus in 1844 when she was just 13, she was fucking...
cousin?
Yeah. She was fucking traumatized. Not from the passing of her cousin, but by the presence of death itself. She said, quote, "It seemed to me I should die too if I could not be permitted to watch over her or even look at her face. Like, if she didn't look at the body during the wake, she was afraid death was going to come for her."
Yeah, that's not awesome.
No.
What's typhus again? I feel like we talked about
It's
this.
an old thing.
We talk about this like every fucking third episode. Like, typhus, comes up. Or just some other weird Latin sounding fucking...
You get the coughs. You get the coughs and you die.
Yeah.
It's old COVID.
Old COVID?
Yeah, it's old COVID.
Mm.
Yeah. In the following 2 years, Emily only managed to attend 11 weeks of school. In 1845, following Emily's first existential crisis...
Me too, Emily. Me too.
Following her first existential crisis, a Protestant revival swept through New England in what was called the Second Great Awakening. People were in the streets throwing religious festivals.
The Second Great Awakening.
I looked up what the first was, and I don't know. But they kind of called it this because they were acting like Jesus was coming back. Like, for some reason, that's what they thought. They were just out in the streets like, for some reason, it's happening soon.
It's all fucking lead, man.
Yeah, probably. Keep drinking the well water. Don't
you know how
do
much
that.
gnarly shit was just in everything around
I
them
know.
back in the day?
It's terrible. But yeah, they just thought Jesus was coming back for the rapture, and they were like, "Hell yeah, brother! Fucking eat it up. Let's all die."
That sounds
Cool.
interesting. We don't have TV.
True. Yeah,
We don't have TV.
I'm sure.
We don't have any fucking there's no big sports to sate the bloodlust.
No, I mean, honestly, I would say I would almost call this mass hysteria, but since it was a religious event, you can't call it that. So I don't know, but
I mean, you
seemed
absolutely
they were
can.
like that. Yeah, right. So all these people were just out there enjoying life, looking forward to the rapture, and for some reason, it really lifted Emily up.
I dumped out all my savings, dude. Not worried about it. Retirement plan, not worried about it.
Well, it's like everyone's out there celebrating death, and she's like, yeah, maybe it's cool. I don't know. She said, quote, "I never enjoyed such perfect peace and happiness as the short time in which I felt I had found my Savior." She had her regular dose of Christianity before, reading the Bible and whatnot, but to see all these New Age Protestants celebrating had a big impact on her. Granted, she was never really brought into Protestantism, but she was into the vibe. By the time Emily graduated...
Condoms are pretty sick.
Why? What are you bringing?
Protestants can use condoms.
They can?
Yeah.
I didn't know that you weren't allowed to in other religions.
Yeah. When you're Catholic, you're not supposed to be using birth control.
Oh, right.
I mean, I
know nobody that's actually in doing that. Like, but
back in the day, I remember it was a bigger deal.
Actually, you know the most
because I was alive then. You see,
you know the most Catholic country in the world. They're quite proud of this. It's the Philippines.
I had a feeling you were going to say that.
Guess what they have outlawed? Condoms.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. My wife has about 11 aunts and uncles.
Is that before or after they outlawed condoms?
What are condoms?
Well,
by the time Emily graduated from
already 11, they're already doing it. You don't need to outlaw the condoms. It's just being mean. Like,
well, like, by the time Emily graduated from Amherst in 1847 at the age of 16, she found herself practically alone. She had made a few friends in school, but they were all going to live their normal lives elsewhere, and only a few would remain in town. Not sure what to do with herself, Emily opted to attend college again, this time at the Mount Holyoke Female Seminary, but she would only stay for 10 months before calling it quits. Now, there are a lot of made-up scenarios as to why. Some say it was because she rebelled against her strict teachers.
What's she studying at this point?
She just went to, like, a female seminary, like a religious school, and she was there for 10 minutes and dropped out, and people are like, I wonder why. And some are like, she fucking rebelled.
Wait, is this like a college? You're going so quickly.
Technically,
today.
Yes, it
okay,
is.
So she's like college. This is college time for Emily Dickinson.
Yes. They're like, you know, she argued against their faith. She made enemies. There's all these, like, for some reason, real punk reasons as to why
They're like, give me your condoms. She's like, no, I like chewing them.
That's why I like the strawberry ones. This one's Baja Blast. But, I mean, honestly,
found the cool textured ones at the truck stops. Put them on all my door handles.
To me, the simplest answers are usually the right ones. She probably got homesick, or she just got regular ass sick and she wanted to go home. After her short stint at Mount Holyoke, Emily Dickinson felt she was doomed to spend the rest of her life in Amherst. And she was right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't... Do you think you would have a good time at a college-type situation without any of the actual reasons why people go to college at it?
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I don't really know what the fuck they study at like, a seminary. Like,
it's just got to be school, regular-ass school stuff.
But no, it's like Bible work and stuff.
Is it general studies plus Bible?
Probably. Yeah,
right?
I guess.
Like, yeah.
I don't know, man. God, that's boring.
School, no parties and anything?
My friend fucked me one time. Not literally, not physically, but literally in another sense. But he... Hey, anyway, what... No, so...
Yeah.
My friend...
Whoa, slow down, collect yourself, breathe. Where did that thought go?
My friend, he invited me to a summer camp when I was a kid, and I was like, fuck yes. We went. Great summer camp. Did not tell me it was religious. Didn't tell my parents it was a religious one. You got to do fucking whatever you wanted out in acres of wilderness, dangerous wilderness. We found a lot of shit out there.
This is like 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how they drew you in then with like all the extreme fun stuff, and then they were like, also, Jesus.
Every night, 3 hours.
Fucking
3-hour sermon every fucking day.
Did they give you a break in between?
No.
They even give you a break every hour for class now. Because they know that you're not going to retain the information.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the point. Ooh.
Well, I mean, they kind of did treat it like a boot camp. We were all going to bed at 10 or 11 o'clock at night and then waking up at like 5 for a quick morning prayer before fucking off again. And it's like, what do you want to do for the rest of this time? I want to take a fucking nap. Well, you're not allowed. Keep going out there and discovering Christ. You know, I was like, I don't want to.
I'm really tired, man. Like, hey, man, usually you have to condition and train for a few months to get through this level of daily physical activity. You don't just get thrown.
I mean, I will say it was nice, I guess, like to have that amount of freedom, but it was I don't want to learn about
like how old were you?
I had to have been 13 maybe.
It's pretty audacious of them to put 3 hours. I think like an hour of time a day would be like, yeah, okay, I'll take it so I can go
more
to
than
enough
summer
camp.
They were trying to fucking
but that would be max.
They were trying to speed run the Bible over the course of a week, I guess, you know.
Just cram it all in there.
I guess, man.
Yeah, don't find any like particular parts that may resonate with the children. Just make sure they hear all of it. You know, just fucking spray and pray. Like, maybe some of this shit will stick.
That's how I piss when I'm drunk. But
let them run around in the woods. Like,
I mean, but maybe that's what Emily Dickinson went through, too, where she was just like, this is a lot. I don't think I'm into the Protestant thing anymore. Now, Emily believed for a while that the only thing worth reading was the Bible, and that was partially her father's fault. I mean, he just didn't see any reason for anything else. But a student of his named Benjamin Franklin Newton. Shut up. It's a cool name. Shut the fuck up. We're not sure, by the way, if he and Emily were ever romantic. He began...
Kid, don't worry. Your name's so bad, I'm going to go beat up your parents. you just get a knock on the door. It's just 4 10-year-olds run in and give you a wedgie.
It's happening again.
You named your kid Spock. Fuck you.
You think that we don't know that you named your kid Hermione and you think that's a Greek name? No, you fucking liar. You fucking weeb. Get over here. We know what it's about.
Getting
you dumbass.
bullied by children.
Well, so this guy, though, Benjamin Franklin Newton.
Say the whole thing every time.
Benjamin Franklin Newton. He began showing Emily some poetry. And he showed her books like Ralph Waldo Emerson and specifically Lydia Maria Child's Letters from New York, in which Emily said after reading it, quote, "This, then, is a book, and there are more of them."
Yeah. What?
After that, her siblings Austen and Lavinia sent her books that they themselves had loved, like Shakespeare and Charlotte Bronte, which, by the way, she loved Bronte's Jane Eyre so much that when she got the one and only dog in her life, a Newfie she named Carlo, she named him after a character's dog in the book.
What?
It's a Newfie, Newfoundland.
I didn't like that.
What?
Just call it a Newfoundland.
They're called Newfies.
You made it sound like a Neopet, Jordan.
What's wrong with that? Don't bully me. Don't look at my Tamagotchi. Stop looking at my backpack.
I'm going to go pay middle schoolers to come beat you up.
It'll work.
$50 a head.
You better make sure it's when I'm sober, because
I
I will fight back.
The biggest, meanest ones in there.
Honestly, you could probably just hit up some of my old bullies, and then when they show up just fat and divorced, I'll still cry. Yeah.
No, they usually end up doing okay.
Well, it's believed to be around
50-50, really. Anyway,
yeah.
Go on.
No, he came from a broken home, so it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's believed to be around this time that Emily Dickinson would start her career in poetry. Not publicly, but at least to herself. But as much fun as Emily seemed to be having, between the reading, the dog, and the religious upheavals, the fun would be cut short once again in 1850 when she was 19 years old, when her old principal from Amherst College and a close personal friend named Leonard Humphrey died at age 25 from an aneurysm. Suddenly, Emily is reminded of death and shuts herself up indoors of her own volition, her fear growing stronger than ever. She refuses to come outside, and as her friend group dwindles away, she'll find herself becoming a phantom with each passing. Quote, "Some of my friends are sleeping the churchyard sleep. The hour of evening is sad. It was once my study hour. My master has gone to rest, and the open leaf of the book, and the scholar at school alone, makes the tears come, and I cannot brush them away. I would not if I could, for they are the only tribute I can pay the departed Humphrey."
So do we know what this is symptomatic of?
Fear. I really don't.
Like,
and it's gonna get worse for her, but it's still going in this same regard. She is a complete shut-in, and I would almost call it agoraphobic, but I know that's not it either. She's not afraid of the outside. She's deathly afraid of illnesses and death. She's afraid of dying. Essentially, it's just top phobia.
I mean, yeah, that's not. I mean, when you phrase it that way, it doesn't sound unreasonable. It's got to be some other kind of mental illness thing that makes you obsess about something like that.
It could be.
Is it like an OCD thing?
I don't know, actually.
Like, you didn't look that up at all?
What
Are you going to surprise me later?
She had fear. I don't know.
Somebody has to have, like, come on.
I don't know. Hey, we did this over the Philip K. Dick episode. We did this in the Philip K. Dick episode, Caleb. We are not psychiatrists. We are not psychologists. We cannot just start.
No, but I have fucking Google, and there's other people that do that. Hang on. Looks like we got our, we just got our regular old, anxiety and depression like everybody else.
Yeah, that's why I couldn't place it. I was like, no, this seems normal.
It seems very, I don't know, every other person I know does that.
Now, the one friend Emily maintained throughout her life was a woman by the name of Susan Gilbert. She and Emily were inseparable from the time they first met at Amherst College, and by 1853, Sue was engaged to Emily's brother, Austin. 3 years later, they were wed, with only Susan's siblings in attendance. Now, a year prior, in 1855, General David Mack, the guy who bought the Dickinson homestead, their old house, had died. And at this point, Emily's dad, Edward, was making enough money as a congressman that he was able to buy back the house and the surrounding property for $6,000, just a little over $200,000 today, which pisses me the fuck off, because all me and Nicole could afford with double that cash was a trailer out in fucking Canby. Anyway.
Yeah, it's fucking way she goes, Jordan.
Yeah. Anyway, when Ed bought the property, he built an additional house next to the old one as a wedding present for Austin and Sue, as well as making his son partner at his law firm. You would figure having everything set up for you would make for an easy life, but apparently Sue and Austin actually had a very difficult marriage. And honestly, a part of me thinks...
Well, yeah, you got to cover that shit, too.
Well, what?
It would have been easy if you wouldn't have been a dipshit about picking your fucking marriage husband or wife, person.
It always feels like these people don't date for very long before they're like, yeah, I'll fuck you.
Yeah, nobody did back in the day because you weren't allowed to fucking wrap up.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Well, here's the thing, though. Honestly, a part of me thinks the difficulties...
Like harder to wrap up? I don't know.
Sheepskin, brother. A part of me thinks the difficulties in their marriage may have had to do with Sue and Emily's relationship being a little more than friends. Now, on one side of the argument, people say that it would make sense for someone as shut in as Emily Dickinson to attach herself to the only friend they have and end up sounding a little creepy in letters. To the people who say that, I say, I agree. However, I'm inclined to believe the people on the other side of this dispute, who say things between Emily and Sue were a little more than that, and here's an excerpt as to why.
Well, I mean, also, I'm not saying this is the reason for sexuality being one way or the other, but if you are afraid of death,
Not getting it from a dick?
What? Just generally not being around men.
That's fair.
And that's from the ground up. when we come to just like chance of getting beaten to death or just gnarliness of the VD you're getting.
That's fair. That is, yeah.
So if you're worried about that.
I saw nothing but his feet, but he has trench foot too. Yeah.
So, if you're interested in both parties, but you're scared of death, and suddenly it's one.
Quote, Susie, will you indeed come home next Saturday and be my own again and kiss me?
Oh, man.
I hope for you so much and feel so eager for you. Feel that I cannot wait. Feel that now I must have you. That the expectation once more to see your face again makes me feel hot and feverish.
Okay, wait a minute. This isn't her husband, right?
No.
Okay, cool.
This is Emily to her sister-in-law.
I got it all fucked up in my head because you.
Yeah. Oh, it's my fault.
Yeah.
The guy with ADD drinking and who admitted at the beginning he's off his meds.
Yeah. Okay, go on.
My heart beats so fast. My darling, so near I seem to you that I disdain this pen and wait for a warmer language.
I don't see the problem here.
It sounds kind of gay.
What? Dude, my girlfriend texts all her friends like that. I don't know
it's
what
really
you're talking
weird.
about.
She's got McDonald's on her fucking contacts, and she keeps texting McDonald's like he's asleep and shit. It's really weird. You know?
You laugh now, but you fucking wait till you see those breakfast deals, okay?
I got hash browns on my titties. Cool.
Exactly.
Well, Emily had her correspondence with many people throughout the years. She wrote Susan Gilbert over 300 times, far more than anyone else. Which is strange, since they lived right next door to each other. It's almost as if they wanted to keep their interactions a secret. So yes, the general consensus is that Emily Dickinson was probably in love with Susan Gilbert. She called her the Beatrice to her Dante,
or at
for
least
God's sake.
real horned up.
Dude, the Beatrice to my Dante? If you say it, and he's a well-known creep for that girl, if you remember. So it's like...
Yeah, but I also remember I would not call that love.
Maybe she didn't either. I'm obsessed.
I mean, as far as they know, they get married within a fucking month and have kids, so
yeah,
that's probably about the closest thing they got.
No,
I'm real horny. That's what it is. That's what it is. That's 100%. Don't worry about it.
Now, none of this is to say that Emily was never close to any men in her life. It does seem that she saw a couple guys in college, like that student of her father's, Benjamin Franklin Newton. but to what extent we'll never really know. But it was her one friendship with Susan Gilbert that's believed to be the inspiration to this poem. Wild nights, were I with thee. Wild nights should be our luxury. Futile the winds to a heart in port. Done with the compass, done with the chart. Rowing in Eden, the sea. Might I but more tonight in thee. Let me dock that boat, Caleb.
Okay, you've kind of told this to me like, okay, we might need to pause while someone finishes blowing their leaves.
Oh, no, fuck them. It doesn't matter. Keep it going.
So, I feel like you presented this as if it were some kind of question.
What?
As to whether or not this is, like,
it sounds gay?
Super gay, and it's there's no question.
Good. I'm glad that you agree with me. And this is not how I'm framing it. I honestly have presented the best evidence on the other side, too. Which is, I don't want it to happen, therefore it's not.
Who in the fuck... Who is arguing against this, and how silly of a person are they?
I'll get into that.
And for what reason or motivation do they have?
Because they're old and full of hatred. That is
that's very clearly...
Yeah, so here's... Okay, actually, we'll get into it right now. The argument as to whether or not Emily Dickinson was a lesbian is still being debated only because older scholars don't want geniuses to be gay.
Whoa! She may have gone both.
We ran into the same thing
That's
with...
it, right? That's the only reasonable
We ran into the same thing with Willa Cather. So, for anyone who says she wasn't, please explain to me what else Emily could have meant when she wrote this to Sue. Quote, I tore open your letter and licked the envelope seal for any lingering taste of you. That is horny. Granted, I would say the same exact thing to you, but I feel like they didn't have gay satire back then.
So gay...
That's gay as fuck.
Gay jokes are a very complicated modern thing. It's just not like... I don't think they were just broing it up. like
lick it up.
There's
baby.
No other way to interpret that.
There isn't.
That wasn't even necessary as an example. What you gave me before was fine. Like,
that was the horniest thing that I could find, I felt. But it was like, there's a bunch more.
Yeah, she's probably bisexual. I don't fucking know.
She literally told Sue to never let anyone see her letters. I wonder why. Anyway, because
because people might think...
They might get the wrong impression.
People might think we're in a romantic relationship.
And really, it's this ongoing joke we have with each other, going to be very popular in the 21st century. But, so because we don't have any real order to Dickinson's work, it was discovered all at once after her death, we can only guess as to what was happening in her life during some of her most profound work. However, we can only take a guess that the following poem, one of Dickinson's most recognized, is from around the time she and Sue actually met. Her breast is fit for pearls, but I was not a diver. Her brow is... Shut up! Her brow is fit for thrones, but I have not a crest. Her heart is fit for home. I, a sparrow, build there. Sweet of twigs and twine, my perennial nest. Talking about just cozying right up into her chest. I mean... Sounds like Sue Gilbert to me.
Definitely a lot sweeter than the envelope thing.
Yeah, right?
It's still super gay.
Don't publish this one, but... Now, none of this is to say...
that was very beautiful.
Yeah. And none of this is to say that Susan Gilbert and Emily was Emily's one and only friend. She had others, but as I'd mentioned before...
Yeah, no. Friends.
Yes, friends.
Friends.
Mm-hmm.
Not...
We're going to say back and forth for 45 minutes.
Not partners.
Yes. Well, she had other friends, but as I'd mentioned before, after college, they'd really become nothing more than pen pals. Especially since around the time of Austin and Susan's marriage, Emily's mother grew ill and bedridden, and it was Emily that was doomed to take care of her and play housemaid for the rest of her life. I mean, they did also have a housemaid, but still, housemaid in her regards, and a kid with a silver spoon kind of upbringing. Mm-hmm. Now that she had an excuse to be a hermit without citing her irrational fear of death, Emily would spend her time reading the classics with nothing else to do. It was a few years later, in the summer of 1858, that Emily would look back at the poetry she'd made and make nicer copies of the ones she'd loved, while reworking or discarding the ones she didn't. This was a practice she'd carry on with, eventually creating, we think, about 1,800 poems, which she held in 40 different booklets. These books would remain a secret until her death. No one knew just how much poetry was a part of Emily's life. In fact, everyone thought she only had a passing interest in it because she only ever shared about 50 in her lifetime. The last bit of public appearance Emily Dickinson would have is when the family befriended a man by the name of Samuel Bowles. Bowles.
Spell it, please.
Bowles. Bowles. That's not just bowls with an S at the end, it's an ES, so it's got a little bit more of a pronounce. So Samuel Bowles, he owned a newspaper called the Springfield Republican. And while he would visit the family for years to come, he would only get a passing glimpse of Emily, as she would prefer to speak to guests from behind a closed door. However, it was the friendship she sparked with Samuel that led to her poems being printed for the first time in his paper. But here's the thing. Emily Dickinson's poetry is a little different. You can tell a Dickinson poem just by looking at it. For her time, her work was considered abnormal. Her use of short lines, unconventional punctuation, and rhymes were not welcome back then. Anyone that printed her work during her lifetime just figured she was some dumb woman in need of an editor, instead of someone who'd probably read more books than anyone at that point and knew she was completely changing the game. Instead, people like Samuel Bowles changed every aspect of her poetry in order for it to be seen fit to print. And as much as this bothered her, it seemed like she didn't mind if Samuel did it just because they were friends.
By Eric Dickinson. See there? See that one edit right there? Yeah, good. Now it's going to sell. Pay me.
Yeah, now it's accepted by the public. Within a few years, although a complete shut-in, it's thought that Emily Dickinson was possibly thinking about stepping into the wide world just to find publication. We don't know for sure, but there is evidence to support it. In 1862, there was a man by the name of Thomas Wentworth Higginson who wrote a piece for the Atlantic Monthly called Letter to a Young Contributor. All it was his advice to anyone who wished to publish. Like, just, here's what you should do. It's worked for me. Go at it. In response, Dickinson sent him an unhinged letter which read, "Mr. Higginson, are you too deeply occupied to say my verse is alive? The mind is so near itself, it cannot see distinctly, and I have none to ask, should you think it breathes? And had you the leisure to tell me, I should feel quick gratitude. If I make the mistake that you dared to tell me would give me sincere honor toward you, I enclose my name, asking you, if you please, sir, to tell me what is true, that you will not betray me. It is needless to ask, since honor is its own pawn."
If I were him, I'd just be like, Emily, I thought it was weird at first that you wanted to speak to me through a door. Now I'm very glad.
Well, he didn't. This was a different dude. He's never even heard of this chick before. And by the way, that was the entire letter. Complete nonsense. Didn't even sign it. And for some reason, Higgins was not afraid of this chick. Probably because with this letter was a few of her poems, which he found very promising. And only because of the return address was he able to write back to Emily, giving her some advice. The two quickly grew a correspondence where she soon referred to Higgins as "dear friend" and regarded herself as "your gnome." Oh. I think this is actually a great case study for what Cervantes was talking about in Don Quixote. He was making fun of the people who said books about knights would rot your mind, but here was a chick who secluded herself from the world and did nothing but read, and she does come off as a little scary, admittedly. In fact, Emily's dad was constantly giving her books because she requested them when he left on assignment, but he did fear that they were wearing on her brain.
She writes dialogue for Soul's characters. This shit is fucking weird, dude.
She said that he, quote, begs me not to read them because he fears they joggle the mind.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
Was it Livewire time?
It's Livewire time.
Man, we gotta fucking I gotta get the medication back. We have been all over the goddamn place.
What do you mean? You just drink cough syrup?
We were just talking about like a historical thing, and now we're fucking getting on the Livewire review.
What's my review? Let's see.
All right. Haven't taken a sip yet.
It tastes like bad Fanta. But that's okay.
All right,
it kind of tastes like medicine. You know, if I tell myself it's cough medicine, it goes down easier.
Nope. Nope.
Hey, you know how earlier
Have that second Modelo and then drink.
No, fuck, dude. Okay, we're gonna take another pause break because I need you to go downstairs, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'd rather have the IPA.
Would you like the Modelo?
Your Modelo? Yes.
Yeah. No, that Modelo's for you.
Of course I want the fucking Modelo.
I knew I was going to be drinking all Mountain Dew. You know.
I can't, dude. That's
something. It sure is.
Look, man, I spent my weekend defending spam.
Spam's good.
To my partner's parents.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And I made a case.
You made a scene.
I made a good case. I was having a delicious spam masubi. Thank you very much. And I cannot fucking ingest that.
The Livewire?
No.
It's fine. You know what? When I'm done with this and done with yours, we're gonna have that watermelon to just wash everything down.
If this were some kind of cold medicine, I'd be like, oh, okay, that's all right.
That's what I'm thinking.
But
I think it goes down quite easy when it's medicine.
But no, I'm not sick, and I don't have to drink that, so I'm not gonna do that.
Some of my best writing is when I'm on cough medicine.
That is the lowest ranked do so far, is the Livewire. The Livewire is straight ass, only watermelon is left. Should we just get it out of the way now?
No, we'll get to it. Let's pace ourselves.
Is that going to be the end?
Is pacing ourselves what we do? Because
look, I'm just gonna tell you right now, dude, that I'm not gonna get past a sip of this.
Yeah,
if we've established a pattern here.
Granted, I only bought the 12-pack because that was all that was available. Mm-hmm. If it came in like a sixer where it was far fewer, we would have just done that. So I'm okay dumping most of this.
1 out of 10. Baja Blast is at 5. 5 is pass.
Yeah,
and that's
I've
fucking
had shittier beer. You know,
5 is fucking. Baja Blast is C-, if only because I can say I'm getting Baja Blasted. Okay, Livewire is it 1?
I think you're too cruel.
And normal dew is going to be at a 4. The traditional dew is going to be at a 4, just below pass.
In 1866, what Emily saw as her last true face-to-face companion, her dog Carlo, died at the age of 16. He's a new feet. Get over it. That same year, the house servant left, and Emily began only talking to others through a closed door, family included. It was as if she was an unseen ghost that only her bedridden mother could see. Speaking of ghosts, Emily began only dressing in white. Whenever she was seen...
Emily, how you doing? Woo! All right, Donnie.
Whenever she was seen, it was from a distant window, like a goddamn phantom. Eventually, her family stopped talking about her with outsiders. If someone asked, they just changed the subject. But Higgins finally got to meet her in
100% on the spectrum. 100%.
But Higgins finally...
Bisexual, autistic author, Emily Dickinson.
Higgins finally got to meet her.
Optimistically bisexual.
Yeah.
100% autistic Emily Dickinson.
Optimistically. But Higgins finally got to meet her in 1870 after 8 years of just talking through letters. When asked what she was like, he said he was never, quote, with anyone who drained my nerve power so much. Without touching her, she drew from me. I am glad not to live near her.
Oh, God.
I mean, he probably was like, oh, her letters are very artistic. And it's like, oh, no, she's like this.
Oh, shit, that just comes out of you.
Fuck. Hey, just saying that in front of God and everybody, huh? Yes, do you think my voice is alike? Open the door. No. You know, But there was another side to Emily Dickinson. Besides town ghost and secret poet, she was also an avid gardener. The area around the Dickinson homestead was a well-known nature spot, and at night, like a fucking ghoul, she'd go out there, dressed in white, and pick flowers. She had this 66-page book which held 424 pressed flowers, which she personally picked and classified. The whole thing has actually been scanned and is available online, which is neat. In fact, Emily would often send flower arrangements with her letters to friends, sometimes original poetry as well. But apparently everyone saw more worth in the flowers, so the poems would get tossed while keeping the bouquet, which if any of her friends survived long enough to see her grow in popularity, I'm sure they were just like, dang.
Who would have thought that dick move would have been? Just
Boy,
keep the poem.
I know.
Just keep the poem. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I tossed that out, but I kept all of my happy birthdays just in case something unforeseen happens. I don't know what.
Whereas even if you would have been condescending and pinned it to the fridge, like, you would have been in a better place. That's going right up here, Emily.
That's so dicky, but God.
That's going in the crawl space because it creeps me out.
How is it still in such fine condition after all these years? Oh, I tossed it behind the couch.
Yeah, just put it in a drawer, airtight drawer, locked.
I locked it. I didn't know ghosts could write. In 1874, Emily's father, Edward, passed away at age 71 from a stroke. Ever the man away from home, he died in his hotel room while away on business, giving speeches about the benefits of the Massachusetts Railroad.
All right.
Woo! The funeral service was held in the Dickinson homestead so that Emily could attend, but even then, her door was only cracked open so she could peek in. The only person to talk to her at the service was Samuel Bowles, the editor of the Springfield Republican.
Wait, don't worry. Emily's just going to be looking.
She's
through,
always watching.
Through just like a little cracked door. It would be super cool if you just didn't tell me that. And you just let her look through the cracked door, honestly.
Can you imagine that you like walk to the kitchen or something, you just hear footsteps up above, kind of following pace. You look up and there's a fucking hole or something, and just like, okay, cool.
All right.
Always watching, I see. That's super neat. A year later, Emily's mother would also suffer a stroke, keeping her bedridden but now almost completely paralyzed as well. Emily did little in the next 10 years, still just being a recluse, but what we know is that the pen pals she had remaining started slowly dying off from illnesses. In 1882, Emily's mother died as well, and although there was nothing keeping her at home any longer, Emily remained a shut-in for all her remaining days. In 1876, Higgins showed one of Emily's poems to a woman named Helen Hunt Jackson. She read it, instantly fell in love with it, and wrote her to try and convince her to enter it into a book called A Mask of Poets, which was part of a collection called the No Name series. Basically, it was this series of collaborations.
I believe I'm following.
It was this series of collaborations, whether they were poems or short stories, where everyone in it entered their piece anonymously. But Emily took a little convincing. I mean, every time she entered something for the Springfield Republican, they altered the text. Could she be guaranteed they wouldn't do it this time in her first actual contribution to the literary world?
Yeah, because they don't know she's a lady.
Yeah, well, she did it. Emily Dickinson entered a poem called Success is Counted Sweetest, which goes like this. Success is counted sweetest by those who never succeed. To comprehend a nectar requires sorest need. Not one of all the purple host who took the flag today can tell the definition so clear of victory, as he defeated, dying, on whose forbidden ear the distant sirens of triumph burst agonized and clear. When the poem was published in A Mask of Poets, it was the truest version of any of her work published up to this point. They literally only changed the punctuation on a few things. For instance, in the original poem, it ends with an exclamation point, burst agonized and clear. But in A Mask of Poets, it ends with just a period. That's kind of it.
Yeah, it's better.
Yeah, but Helen Jackson still sent an apology letter to Emily like, so, what you think? Emily never published anything ever again in her entire life. For some reason, that was the last fucking straw.
That last bit was supposed to be yelled.
Scream! Emily's sister, Lavinia, moved into the homestead around this time. Although Emily would continue to write poetry off and on, she no longer went back to edit them until she felt they were perfected. A lot of them were either first tries or completely thrown away. She also made Lavinia make her a promise. When she dies, burn her letters. Probably because of her infatuation with Susan Gilbert, but Sue's letters still remain, so we do know just how freaky they got. Now, the same year as their mother's death, in 1882, Austin Dickinson began an affair with a woman named Mabel Loomis Todd, whom he met at Amherst College. Although Mabel never met Emily, she was fascinated by the fact that the guy she was banging had a hermit for a sister. The next year in 1883, one of Sue and Austin's children died. This kid was apparently Emily's favorite, and again, she sunk into a depression which somehow kept her even further from the public eye. She probably stopped going into the fucking window at night. For all the death that Emily experienced in a short amount of time, she eventually started writing that she saw, quote, a great darkness coming. And sure enough, sometime in late 1885, Emily would be in the kitchen when she suddenly fell unconscious. She remained bedbound with short, sporadic episodes of lucidity until May 15th, 1886, when Emily Dickinson died at the age of 55. The family doctor speculated that she had died of Bright's disease, which affects the heart and kidneys, and that she probably had it for about 2.5 years, untreated, due to her fear of being seen. Knowingly, her sister Lavinia and her brother Austin had Susan Gilbert take care of everything. She washed Emily's body upon her death, made the flower arrangements for her casket consisting of heliotropes, orchids, and violets, and even dressed Emily up in a flannel robe she'd made for her long ago.
Ah,
yes.
the cloth of her people.
Some say that Emily Dickinson was not a lesbian even after she was laid to rest in a flannel fucking robe. I think your mom's wedding dress was... Like, goddamn, dude. Yeah, as soon as I read that, I was like, it's always been a thing?
They found me in the woods. They clothed me in their finest flannel and took me in as one of their own.
Taught me to love the woman. Additionally, Sue even wrote Emily's obituary, ending it with the lines from one of her poems. Morns like these we parted, noons like these she rose, fluttering first, then firmer, to her fair repose. Emily's funeral was held in the Homestead Library, with Thomas Wentworth Higgins in attendance, perhaps her first real fan. At her dying request, her casket was not carted to her cemetery plot, but carried by those in attendance through the buttercup fields. When Lavinia went through Emily's belongings, she held her promise and torched all her letters. But when she found volumes of papers bound in 40 large books locked away in a chest, she discovered literally Emily's entire life work, 1,800 poems, but she had only published 10 while she was alive. Here's the thing about Emily Dickinson's poems. That when I say that they were bound, they started off nice and neat, collected in a nice little photographic album. When they went through her belongings and shit, she had poems written on like corners of scraps of paper, like fucking everywhere. Like just little things that she just wrote tiny, just like, and then just like discarded on the sides and shit. And they're just like, did she see this as finished? I don't know. She wrote it very well.
A lifetime of special interest.
I did.
In this little book.
I found like an art book, like one of those big like coffee table books that had like all of her poems as they were found. And it's crazy to flip through it, and it's just like scraps of envelope and shit just written on the back of like coupons and stuff. Like, it was a little insane. Lavinia immediately saw their worth, and she worked instantly to get them published. At first, she turned to Susan Gilbert, but she was like, dude, I don't know anything about publishing. So instead, Lavinia turned to Austin's side piece, Mabel Loomis Todd, who always had a passing interest in Emily as a person. However, she did work a bit in publishing, not really in anything poetry related, but she was married to a famous astronomer who often published his research. So with that little bit of knowledge, Mabel decided to check out what Lavinia had. When she read Emily's poetry, she knew it was brilliant too, and she immediately got to work with the help of her old friend Thomas Higginson.
Wait, what happened to... What happened to Sue or whatever?
Oh, she's still there. She was just like, I don't know anything about publishing, so, I mean, you can't really ask me to do anything with it. So they just asked her husband's mistress. It seemed very open about, like, hey, I'm cheating on you. And it's like, yeah, that's fine. I'm not into men, you know. The first volume of Dickinson's work was published in 1890, 4 years after her death, in a volume simply titled Poems by Emily Dickinson. The volume only held 115 poems, and the response was mediocre at best. partly because they were mediocre at best. Why? Because once again, Dickinson's poetry was changed to suit the style of the times. Just to give you an idea of how often this would happen, Emily's work wouldn't be printed in their original state until 1955. However, although the response to her first collection of work was only just okay, people did see its originality. And at the end of the day, the book was a financial success. In just 2 years, it had gone through 11 editions. A year after the first, a second volume called Poems, second series, was released to an even bigger response. One reviewer said, quote, "The world will not rest satisfied till every scrap of her writings, letters as well as literature, has been published." 3 years later, in 1894, Mabel published a book of Emily's letters, a pretty common practice back then so people could feel like they really knew their heroes. Though noticeably, none of the letters were from Susan Gilbert. We'll get into that in a second.
See, that's what I was asking about.
Yeah. The year after this second collection, Austin Dickinson passed away, leaving Lavinia to deal with Mabel herself. And finally, in 1896, Poems' third series was released. So here's the thing. Mabel was putting in all this work. The 3 volumes, the book of letters. She even gave titles to all the poems, even though the originals didn't have any. And she was the one editing them to fit the styles of the time. Yet Lavinia, and even Austin before he died, were giving her practically nothing in the way of royalties. The books sold very well, but in the 6 years these 4 books were produced, Mabel was only given $200, about $7,000 today. Austin had actually tried to placate this by giving Mabel and her husband a strip of land by the homestead. Like, hey, go ahead and just build your little whore bordello right there. Yeah, right next to me and my wife, you know.
Like, nah, I would have preferred money. Money's fine.
This is as good as, actually, when you invest in silver, all right? It's actually better than money. But instead, Mabel ended up suing Lavinia and won both the title to that strip of land as well as more money. And the copyright between Emily's poems was split. I think about 600 went to Mabel, so that would leave around 1,200 to her own sister. After the lawsuit, Lavinia would remain a shut-in at the homestead just like Emily, and die without a family at the age of 66 in 1899. Fuck, I thought I would try and slam it. I can't. Oh.
It's bad, isn't it?
Tell me a funny story for a minute.
A funny story? I mean, I don't have one, but what I do have, Jordan, is the last of the Mountain Dew flavors in my hands right now.
Yeah, just give me a second.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so we're cracking the...
This is all bad, you know?
We're cracking...
I don't want anyone to think that any of these... I mean, granted, some are better than others, but give me a break.
I wouldn't... If I owned this company... and we're back on the Mountain Dew now. Sorry for the abrupt shift. If I owned this company... or this name, or however the fuck all that business horse shit works.
Name your child Mountain Dew.
I wouldn't just fire whoever came up with this. I would fire the entire fucking line of people this went down to get into mass production.
You know how they say,
that
like,
we're at now.
You know how they say shit like, oh, that guy came up with this stupid name and everyone got a pay raise. Ha ha ha, that kind of thing. There was a lot more people that fucked this up than just boardroom and directors.
This is...
All right.
And I say that from...
I say this with a labor of love. You fucked up.
I don't. I say this coming from a place of an absolute just despicable gutter person.
True.
In terms of my taste, this is undrinkable. One,
it's not that bad.
Have you recovered enough from the? Excuse me. What was it? The
Livewire.
Have you recovered from the Livewire enough to sip upon the watermelon Mountain Dew alcohol?
Watermelon.
Yes.
Okay. First of all, let me tell you, chugging it's not that bad. Second, here's the thing, though.
That can be said about most things, though.
I would say the Mountain Dew, the hard Mountain Dew, is for the inexperienced, underage drinker. That is what it is for. That is who it's for.
That's been perfected by Mike's Hard Lemonade. That's why you see it on every Chris Hansen episode.
Oh shit. Okay, I never actually.
Yeah, remember they always carry it in there, and they're like, "I brought fucking Mike's Hard," and it's like, yeah, every fucking episode, and then every fucking time the guys come in, and then when they're defending themselves, and they're like, "Oh, so the Mike's Hard's for you then?" And he's like, "Yeah," like every fucking time.
You know what? I'll be honest. Between this and Pabst, I'd probably go for Pabst. Or, sorry, this. I'd go for this over Pabst.
You're kidding me.
No,
You're kidding
honestly,
me.
It tastes better. Pabst is just
It
pea
tastes
water.
better than Pabst?
Pabst is pea
It doesn't
water.
taste better than Pabst.
Huh?
No, it doesn't taste better. Pabst at least just tastes like
But have you
fucking
tried the
beer.
watermelon?
1, 2,
Cheers, brother.
3. Okay.
I don't know. It's better than the Livewire,
Yeah.
but I can't, my brain cannot place if this is candy or not. I don't. It's odd. This is so fucking weird.
It does taste. I mean, it tastes like candy. It also has the strange twinge of flavor to it that you don't you associate that with getting a fucking headache?
God, I don't know.
You know what I mean? Doesn't it have that taste to it where you're like, yeah, no, 100%, this is gonna be a nightmare later.
Oh fuck.
Okay, one more. Whoa. It's thicker.
That's heavy.
It's thick.
I mean, really, why not just put a little bit more alcohol into your Dynatap, you know? Like, see, this is why I drink lean.
This is
It's just more worth it.
It's got the thickness of something that needs to be a much higher.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, this is the kind of shit that you get in a taller can that's 10%.
My thing with the Mountain Dew being 5%, dude, and this is...
It's not worth it.
I've been bitching about this the entire time. It's not even fucking memeable. Four Loko, hilarious.
You wake up on a train, because I had a Four Loko.
You're in
Yeah.
jail now. You have a permanent record. That's it. Now you're in fucking prison doing forced labor for the rest of your life. All it took, 3 Four Locos. Thought it'd be funny if you put him in a fucking beer bong, didn't you? Here you are.
You realize I can't put any of this online. Like, this is all... pretty much going to the trash, but
It's not going to the trash. No, we're keeping the Mountain Dew reviews, man. You're the one who fucking brought them in here. You brought it upon us.
I didn't think that I would be so mad at all the different flavors. After the first one came out and it was regular Mountain Dew, and we were both like, you know, man, I really wish that they just put more effort into it. And then they came out with like all the flavors, and I was like, fuck yeah, dude, this will be like that, but 6 times, and it's not. It's I'm mad.
Yeah.
Is it the liquor? Am I angry? Oh
Also,
no, I'm
it makes
turning
you
into my
angry.
brother.
It makes you angry, but you don't even get drunk. So you have to feel all of it.
Fuck. Anyway. So, all right.
The hard-hitting interviews here at Caleb Can't Read, where we have no sponsorships.
Let's get right into it, shall we?
Yeah, where were we?
Samuel Dickinson was born... No, I can't... So what's funny is that Mabel Todd and her husband, this famous astronomer...
It's making my bones hurt.
That's not just me. That's good. All right, so because I know you don't have diabetes, so I'm not worried it's
Like
diabetes.
my minor injuries.
I feel
hurt
like I
right
might have diabetes because of this. Yeah, your wounds don't heal on this, by the way.
It's just like,
This is like a poison Diablo buff.
this is anti-fucking Wolverine serum.
So what's funny is that Mabel Todd and her husband, this famous astronomer, they both knew each other to be philanderers, even before they got married. It seems like maybe they were on the up and up about it and were just swingers, but it's hard to say because back then people don't ask those kind of questions. They may have just been cheaters, you know. But
Yeah,
either
also, mind your fucking business. But
yeah, for sure. But either way, as mentioned before, Mabel was banging Austin Dickinson for quite some time, and she ran into the issues that most open relationship couples run into, if that's what they were. Mabel fell in love. And because of this, Mabel had an unfounded...
you being so well versed in the open couple scene.
I not from personal experience, but not to talk too much about it, I have known
shit!
several
Oh, wow, I'm really uncomfortable now.
several people I know who went that path, and guess what, brother? It doesn't work.
I don't know if they
Ever.
went that path well.
Huh?
Never mind. Let's go.
Yeah, you know what? That's true. They probably could have finessed it a little better than, hey, I just want to cheat.
I feel like there's
But I'm
probably
not-
like a non-toxic way to go about it.
Probably.
Not for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just want to cheat.
It's like no. I'm way too insecure to go about life that way. Thank you very much. But
Well, because Mabel fell in love with Austin, she had an unfounded hatred for Austin's wife, Susan Gilbert. So when she produced that book of letters, no mention of her. She was literally hoping that history would forget her.
it's kind of lucky, really.
I know. Like, at first people would be like, oh, is it because of the gay thing? No, it's because I want to fuck her husband.
Because of the gay thing. What? What gay thing?
She what? And you know
I don't understand how you could interpret it that way.
So she wanted history to forget her, and maybe they would have had Susan not had a bunch of really sexually charged letters from Emily, because that's interesting. So for a while, these were the only editions of Dickinson's work, the ones that Mabel put out. But the feud between her and the Dickinsons would carry on to the next generation. Martha Dickinson, the daughter of Austin and Sue, suddenly released a volume of her Aunt Emily's work in 1913, using just a handful of poems her parents still had the copyright for. But what that means is that these poems are brand new to the public. If they weren't released by Mabel, we never got them. So after 20 years, there's suddenly a bunch of new poems being released, still re-edited, but to huge acclaim. And when the 57-year-old Mabel saw this, she saw red. But all she could do was let it go, as Martha would continue to publish the poems she owned, off and on for the next couple decades. So you got two fucking families with the copyright to different poems, and they're just jumping. This is like Sony and the MCU trying to fuck one another over for the bigger box office opening, except one of them is putting out Guardians of the Galaxy, and the other is putting out Morbius. Remember when the internet convinced them to release it a second time? It's fucking hilarious.
I love it.
I remember this one dude tweeted out, like, no, Sony released it a third time. We were all working that weekend. But in 1931, Mabel revealed to her own daughter, Millicent, the 600 poems in her possession, which she kept in an antique Chinese chest. She wanted Millicent to help her publish everything she had, to help her cement her legacy as the one who brought Emily Dickinson to the world. Which, you know, she did do that. She isn't wrong. I may not agree with the woman and her pettiness, but when it comes to Susan Gilbert, her pettiness when it comes to Susan Gilbert, but she did very much put in all the crunch time. However, although the project between Mabel and her daughter had barely begun, she would die the next year in 1932 at the age of 75. She was buried in the West Cemetery of Amherst, near Austin Dickinson, where he was buried in his family plot. So she made sure to get a plot that was like other side of the fence, basically.
Ew.
I know. You're dead. Leave it alone.
Let it go.
Now, Mabel's daughter, Millicent, was at a crossroads. At this point, she was an insanely talented geologist. She was actually the first woman to earn a doctorate in geology and geography from Harvard. But she decided to forego all of that to help cement her mother's legacy as well as the life of Emily Dickinson. She released a biography of her mom in 1935, then over the next 10 years, released previously unpublished Dickinson poetry, which resulted in she and Sue's daughter, Martha, kind of doing this on and off publishing war until some guy in 1955 just took everything and he published it all together for the first time ever. Like, saw the originals.
Just everything?
Yeah, he just decided to do it himself.
Here it is.
I feel like he's the guy who knows the second Mickey Mouse becomes public domain just so he can make porn of him without getting sued. Like, that's probably what happened was he was like, oh, is any of this in the public domain? All of it. Well, guess what I'm doing? You know?
Let's say.
I couldn't really find anything else about it. Just this guy published the poems, didn't get in trouble. And the kicker, it was the first time that someone released the poems without changing them. So while Millicent and Martha's little war ensured that Emily Dickinson would remain on the shelves, this guy came along and showed everyone why her poetry should be held in such high esteem in the first place. And what people began to notice when all the poems were there, in order, and with no stupid titles, was that Emily's themes fell into a real dark place as the years went on. At first, she's all about flowers and talking about the masters of poetry. But, like, this is the last thing we think she ever wrote. We step like plush, we stand like snow, the waters murmur now. 3 rivers in the hill are past, 2 deserts and the sea. Now death usurps my premium and gets the look at thee. And I say that we think we have the orders of the poems down because what people have done over the years was look at the age of each individual page, all the scraps of paper she left around. And one guy even looked at the holes made by the needle when she originally bound the volumes together to see which page possibly came before the other. Like, people have really put in a lot of work to just get the chronology of this shit down. And as we've seen with authors in the past, it was the second wave of feminism in the 1960s that really brought Emily Dickinson to the mainstream. People deconstructed
Wonder why.
Was it the straight thing?
Exactly.
People deconstructed her poems for the first time ever and realized that not only were the poems not structured weird at all like previous publishers thought, but the poems themselves hold a very specific rhythm. One that I found is perfectly in tune with the Pokemon theme song. We step like plush, we stand like snow, the waters murmur now, dun, 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 dun. 3 rivers and the hill are past, 2 deserts and the sea, dun, dun, dun. Now death usurps my premium and gets the look at thee, bum, 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 bum. Each Pokemon to understand.
There's no way.
It does. Not all of it
You
does.
didn't find that out yourself. That's
No,
too good.
fuck no. I looked that up
Okay.
online.
Okay.
I said I found. I didn't discover that.
Okay. All right.
It also works with Gilligan's Island.
It's a very common theme.
It seems to be. But it was with this new surge of fans that caused more people to look into her life. And yes, this is where people learned about Susan Gilbert, but more people were focused on whether or not Emily Dickinson was fucking crazy. Rather than see a woman with an irrational fear of death, which you can't really blame her for, everyone around her was dying. The narrative soon became that of a woman who went insane for no reason at all and was a terror to her family. Before I did research on this, I had always heard from Nicole that Emily once locked her niece in a closet and yelled, "This is freedom! This is freedom!" Never happened. She didn't make that up, though. That's a popular rumor. I also
That was not to the cadence of the Pokemon theme, so therefore it did not happen.
It never happened. I also heard that she lived in the attic and got her food through a bucket tied to a rope that she would hoist up, like fucking Tangled.
Like a goblin.
Of course not, you know? Like,
Poems by a goblin. Like,
she walked around the house just fine. They had a fucking maid. They were friends.
I thought we were dogging on her, but this is much worse.
Yeah, right?
Like-
It was actually the maid that owned the chest her poems were originally found in. She had friends. She was somewhat normal. But that's immediately what people went to. It was like feminism picked her up and were like, look, a brilliant woman. And then they immediately were like, but is she weird and or gay? You know? And
So they're like, no. Like, no. I think
just-
the word you're looking for is a crazy lady. Crazy lady, not a brilliant one.
there's only 2 types of women out there. Both of them fucking
They're
crazy.
just like, I understand that this looks appealing to you, but you know those YouTube videos where like sometimes a dog steps on the right button?
And you captured just that one moment, you know? Well, soon after Martha Dickinson's first volume of her aunt's poetry was released in 1913, her mother, Susan Gilbert, passed away. A few years later, in 1916, Martha sold the homestead to a family who later had it designated a National Historic Landmark in 1963. 2 years later, the family sold the property to Amherst College, but Martha still lived in that little offshoot house that Grandpappy Edward built for Austin when he got married. Lived there until her death in 1943. The Dickinson family and Amherst College preserved the house as a collaboration in 1991 and finished their efforts in 2003, creating the Emily Dickinson Museum. Oh, God. I shouldn't have taken that third sip of watermelon. Just give me a second.
I'm actually having a really hard time even having it in my peripheral vision.
That's why you chose the sexy pose that you're doing
It
right
took,
now. Just like hand over the side. Just
This beverage is so bad that even just having the color now in my periphery is giving the same association as smelling an alcohol that I once had alcohol poisoning.
Oh, God, right? Yeah, no, that's true. I'm still drinking it.
You just look at it and you're like, wow, no, like I don't want to do this. Like,
Still drinking it. Well, the Amherst Public Library has over 7,000 manuscripts, articles, and artwork detailing the life of Emily Dickinson, including one of her white dresses she ghosted around in. Amherst College holds the only verified photograph of Emily, as well as a lock of her goddamn hair. In 2018...
gross.
for some reason, very common. In 2018, Wild Nights with Emily was released to some pretty damn good reviews. It stars Molly Shannon as Emily Dickinson. You know, superstar. SNL? No? Anyway.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
There's also a 2019 TV show called Dickinson where John Mulaney plays Henry David Thoreau and Wiz Khalifa plays Death. That's like the Livewire Mountain Dew of casting. And as we close our episode on Emily Dickinson, I will read to you perhaps her most well-known poem, at least her most studied, the title of which Mabel Todd gave The Chariot. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly drove, he knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too for his civility. We passed the school where children strove, at recess, in the ring. We passed the fields of gazing grain. We passed the setting sun. Or rather, he passed us. The dews drew quivering and chill. For only gossamer, my gown, my tippet, only tulle. We paused before a house that seemed a swelling of the ground. The roof was scarcely visible, the cornice in the ground. Since then 'tis centuries, and yet feels shorter than the day I first surmised the horses' heads were toward eternity. My sources today: the collected poems of Emily Dickinson by Emily Dickinson, Barnes & Noble Classics 2003, and Wikipedia. I mean, Emily Dickinson she is really fucking good. Honestly, I read through her entire works in like maybe a few days. They're very fucking calming, very zen. Of course, when you get towards the end, she does have that looming feeling of I'm going to die soon, which was weird, because it happened. But you have to be right eventually, But, I mean, this lady got so fucking maligned for being not only just a woman, but gay and in the head of the fucking game. No one believed her that her shit was just ahead of the line and just were like, no, you need to be edited down. Why would you know anything different? You're a gay lady. You're a gatey.
They didn't know that.
Well, honestly, we don't know that they didn't know that.
I feel like they didn't know that. I feel like probably the only people who didn't know it.
Well, her siblings were just like, Sue, you dress her in your flannel and fucking bury her. You do it. And it felt like they kind of had an understanding. Susan Gilbert and Austin, to me at least, they by the end of their lives, they were just married out of like protection, just bearding.
I mean, I feel like your husband probably knew.
100%.
I mean, that's kind of like, wasn't that kind of like what happened back in the day? Is you were just like, oh, she's one of those, but I'm not going to be weird about it.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's the thing: is like for every author that we do, it's tough to like hear something interesting and then be like, yeah, I kind of recommend an entire fucking novel to you, because it's different from when a friend will tell you, hey, you should watch this movie. It's good. Sure, I can kill 2 hours, and it's like, well, I don't agree with your opinion, but that's 2 hours wasted, and that's it. If you recommend a novel to someone, it's fucking months usually, just off of your fucking timeline where you're like, well, that was a fucking waste. But you know what? Emily Dickinson, dude, it's poetry. Go out there and read some of her shit. It is really fucking good. And just, if you're not into it, you're not into it. And that's kind of it. It's like all free and available online. I know you're not going to do it. I'm telling the other people.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've already, that's the purpose of this podcast, is that you educate me and I don't have to seek that.
You don't have to do anything else.
You're just molding my fragile little brain.
We're going to start a new podcast about math.
What?